we talked yesterday a little bit about workers. I mean, the workers who work in animal agriculture, and the dairies and other, I've been to these places. I've been to dairies and to slaughterhouses, slaughter plants, and to stockyards and factory farms. These workers have the highest rates of injuries, basically, among all workers. They have among the highest rates of suicide, drug addiction, alcohol abuse, spousal abuse. They're doing the work that brings out the worst in them. If you have to go to work and stab animals all day or impregnate them on a rape rack all day, I mean, how do you go home to your family? If I take out my wallet, and this is the thing to really have to understand very clearly, is that this is the voting booth. These votes really get counted, these dollars. You know, the other votes, I don't know. I have my doubts. But these votes get counted. So if I'm voting for meat, dairy products, and eggs, that goes into a system, it gets counted, and because of that, because of my demand, somewhere, someone's going to stab an animal, someone's going to impregnate a female against her will on a rape rack, someone's going to steal the baby and kill the baby. That's directly what's happening. That's what I'm causing. The thing we have to understand is, very clearly, that's not where it ends. I vote for it, I cause it, and that's enough right there. But then I turn around and I actually eat it. I eat the violence, the terror, the fear, the despair, the anxiety that these animals are experiencing, and I feed it to my innocent children. So they teach their children to do the same thing. So we have these animals in our hands who yearn, just like we yearn, for the opportunity to live their lives and to celebrate their lives on this beautiful planet, and we crush them. We torture and mutilate and kill and rape them. How can we expect that we are then qualified to have healthy food, a very healthy government, kind and loving and wise leaders? This is a grassroots movement. We have to wake up. We have to realize that we are being enslaved when we enslave animals. We are being exploited when we exploit animals. That our actions to try to liberate people and ourselves are merely ironic if we don't stop eating animal foods. We want for ourselves what we refuse to give to others. You know, I used to teach college courses in comparative religion. Every religion understands that the fundamental, essential essence, really, of all the world's religions, it's beautiful. It agrees. It's basically this teaching. Whatever you most want for yourself, give that to others. That basic teaching. If we want to be loved, then be loving. If we want to live in a clean, healthy environment, then help others live in clean, healthy environments. If we want to be free, then let others be free. Animals, how many of you have a companion animal, or at some point have had a companion animal, a dog or a cat? Yeah, some of you. So you know what I'm talking about. You know that dog or cat, there's a being in there. If you look in her eyes, there's someone in there. And her interests are to her as important to her as my interests are to me. And this is just as true for cows and pigs and chickens and fishes, right? There's a being in there looking out, and their freedom and their ability to live their lives. And so we would be very upset if someone came along and took our cat and put her into a closet and made her live in her own excrement, and they were going to eat her. We wouldn't let that happen. We would do anything we could because we know her. We care about her. What animal agriculture is, it destroys our capacity to care. We don't care. We learn the subtext of every meal is don't care. The cremation of care, essentially, the destruction of care in our society. So what we're talking about when we say vegan or when we say animal liberation, essentially, is just to awaken our caring again, and the caring that's in our heart naturally. So it's really important to understand the interconnectedness of these different types of health, and that animal agriculture is the most destructive thing we're doing to the health of the planet. There's nothing that comes close to animal agriculture, nothing. Animal agriculture reaches its tentacles to the bottoms of every ocean, into everywhere in the heart of the rainforest, into every building in our society, into every cell in our bodies if we're eating these foods. And everything it touches, it's harming and destroying. Animal agriculture is demonic. We have to understand this so clearly. It brings out the worst in us. And if you were all born as cows or pigs or chickens, I would not have to explain this to you. You would understand this very well. Since we're born as a superior dominant species, it's not so obvious. We've all been brainwashed at an incredibly deep level because we're eating this this teaching. So to understand environmental health, cultural health, physical health, and the irony is when some people are starving, other people are eating huge amounts of grain processed through animals and getting liver disease, kidney disease, heart disease, strokes, diverticulitis, Alzheimer's disease, breast, prostate, and colon cancer, the dementia. All these diseases have been definitively linked to eating diets high in animal-based foods. I think this is pretty well known. I won't have to go into it here. I mean, this is going to be repeated by many of the other teachers here, but this is well documented. You know, like I say, here I am 40 years as a vegan, and it's so liberating. You know, I haven't had to go to a doctor. I haven't been to a doctor in 45 years. You know, I haven't been to a drugstore. You know, I mean, the basic idea is that when we're living our lives and we're connecting with our purpose and we're connecting with something beyond material reality, connecting with the fundamental truth that what each one of us is a field of infinite and eternal consciousness, that we're here on this earth for a few years functioning through a physical vehicle. And we're not here to dominate and exploit and compete with other beings and use them as instruments. That's animal agriculture programming us through that, so we're enslaved. We have to realize our true nature. The true nature of human beings and of all living beings is infinite and eternal consciousness that is founded on the wellspring of love and joy and freedom and creativity. That's our true nature. And so animal agriculture shuts all that down, and we end up in a body that gets very weak and sick, and in ways that really are unnecessary. And our children, especially eating these foods that are based on animal agriculture, they're bearing the real weight of this. But it's important to go into the spiritual and psychological dimension of this too. Just to mention it very briefly, understand that animal agriculture, when we're eating animal-based foods, we're eating a whole set of attitudes. And I'll go into those attitudes a little bit later. I think right now I'll just say the attitudes are not in our best interest. The main one, I'll just mention the main one. The number one attitude is an attitude of disconnectedness. The fundamental message of every meal, if we're eating meat, dairy products, and eggs, is don't make the connection. That's the basic teaching. We're eating bacon. I'm eating a burger. I'm eating a fish stick. We don't think of the being. We're taught, we stop short. We don't go and think about what it took to get that on our plate. We don't want to look deeply to see what is required to bring that onto our plate, what the animal had to go through, what the workers had to go through, the destruction of the climate and the environment and everything that had to happen so that can be on our plate. So if we have that as the fundamental ritual in our society, which are meals, everyone is teaching us 3 times a day, don't make the connection. What is that doing to us as individuals and as a society? You know, my Ph.D. from Berkeley is in education. Intelligence is the capacity to make relevant connections. Intelligence is the ability to make connections. So if every meal essentially is a ritual where we learn at a very deep level to not make the connection, don't make the connection, then it's a direct attack on our intelligence culturally. It's where every meal is teaching us don't look deeply, don't feel deeply, don't care deeply, don't listen deeply, just stay shallow and don't make the connections and trust authority. Just believe whatever they say. And this is eating animal foods is the perfect way to create a society where people are easily controllable, where they won't question the official narratives and the official stories, where they're basically completely disempowered to do anything to protect themselves. Because eating animal foods shuts down our intelligence, not only our cognitive intelligence, but also our emotional intelligence. We lose our capacity to care. We lose our sensitivity. And besides that, it infantilizes us. It makes us all into infants. What are we doing drinking the mammary secretions of animals when we're adults? Why are we drinking milk from a cow, for goodness sakes? I mean, we're not little calves. You know, this is something that is so perverse that it's hard to even imagine. I mean, there's this great image by Michael Clapper. He says, if anyone wants to know if you are a person who really needs to eat dairy products and milk, drink milk, then there's a good way to find out. Go home after the lecture's over, when you have a chance, whenever you go home next, and go into the bathroom and turn the light on, and look in the mirror. And if you see a little calf, then you're designed to eat cow's milk. If you don't see a little calf, then what are you doing? I mean, it's the greatest thing. If you want to just give up the primary driving force behind most of the diseases that are filling up the hospitals, dairy is it, for sure. I mean, there's so many levels. I can talk for hours on dairy, but I won't. But anyway, so these are the psychological, some of the narratives that we're eating, the attitudes that are harming our intelligence, harming our capacities, and really disconnecting us from our spiritual wisdom.